Welcome to the Bike Shed Podcast, the show where we talk all things software engineering, tier rank React frameworks built on top of the React framework, and argue over whether Dunkin' Donuts coffee legally qualifies as coffee. I'm your co-host, a titan of tautologies, champion of saying the same thing twice but differently, and a man who has already changed his NeoVim theme 3 times during this sentence, Scott K. Alongside me are my co-hosts. He built the shopping platform your mother spends all her free time browsing. His latest GitHub repo is a rewrite of the rewrite of his last rewrite. And if you have a problem, don't worry. He's already published an NPM package you'll discover 6 months from now. Matt Hamlin. And my other co-host. With takes so hot, he single-handedly caused the last Cloudflare outage, took half the internet down, forced NASA to turn it off and on again, and still blamed Vercel while sipping his coffee like nothing happened. Dillon, spicy take curry. Matt, Dillon, what are we getting ourselves into today?
I think we need to cover how I took down the internet.
Half the internet.
Only half. You have to. Those are rookie numbers. You gotta get those up.
I'm planning to take down the whole internet.
Well, first of all, Happy New Year, guys. I mean, we. It's been a while since we've recorded one of these.
Happy New Year, Matt. Are you excited for 2026?
Yeah. I'm getting married this year, so that's exciting.
Wow, congratulations.
Hasn't happened yet. Well, I guess with the new year comes everyone's favorite thing at work, review season. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just absolutely hyped. I'm literally at this moment while I'm recording the sentence jumping up with joy that it's review season.
Careful, Matt. You're going to break something in your house.
I love it. I love it. I love reviews. I love sitting there and not writing code to think about what I'm going to say all week. When I was told, you got 30 minutes, just spend 30 minutes doing it. Try 30 weeks of time to cover.
Yeah, it's man, every time review season comes around, I sit there staring at my computer asking myself, what the did I work on over the last year? And then it takes me like 99% of the available time to write that review to remember that, and then the remaining 1% or less than 1% to like actually try to write it.
Not this year for me, Matt. I asked Claude to write up everything I did and compare it to the competencies just to get started. Because this year, I started a list of like all the things I was doing, but I kept like 3 of them and they were really messy and I kind of fell off. So I have a bunch of things I did do there. And then I had Claude write it up and I was like, wow, this is excellent. Also, some folks at work like created with an MCP server, like it just does the review for you. You just I think it took like 15 minutes of like prompting it and getting through it. And eventually I just like wrote a review. Although I don't like feel good enough to just use it as is. So I've been like going through and editing it. It's the same way I feel about code. I just always kind of put my mark on it at the end of the day and then don't just take it verbatim.
Well, the place I work has basically told us just use AI to write your reviews. It's pretty funny. And I did do that last year. So I made a joke before we started recording that I'll just wait like the day after reviews are due and turn them in and just apologize to my manager and it'll be fine. I actually did that last year. And I used AI to write my reviews in like 30 minutes. And I just like quickly proofread and submitted and everything was fine.
Actually, that's a good point. I think at Wayfair, like the last review cycle, that's what I did. Like you and I were doing that, Dylan, and I think that might be why I got laid off.
Was there even like LLMs as a part of our like workflow at that point in time?
No, you had to yeet your context into like ChatGPT as a conversation more than anything.
I remember, 2023 review season, like, because it came out, if I remember correctly, ChatGPT first came out in public in like the end of 2022, like November or something. And so I remember like a few of us joking around, like jumping into it and saying, "Oh, it's a review season. Like, let's see if we can write a review." But I think the problem that I was running into also, like obviously then and of course now, is like yes, I can ask something to write it for me, but like it doesn't have the context of all the work that I did. So I tried, or at least this year, like I've kept decent notes throughout the year, and so I just like said, okay, scan this directory of all these notes, like look for things within the last year, categorize things that are tagged as work, and create a summary of that for me. So I'm going to try to use that to help me write my review. But we also do have there's a feature at work that does like a generated annual summary of all your things, and it's like pretty intense in terms of like a lot of detail, it's really wordy. I don't know if you guys run into this or if you've even noticed it yet, but like, so we use Workday to submit, and Workday for us has like a limit of 4,000 characters or something. And so a lot of people on Slack were talking and saying like, I can't fit my self review. And it's like, well, one, why are you writing a 4,000 plus character self review? That feels a little intensive. And other people were joking like, oh, just like upload it to a paste, which is like a GitHub gist, but an internal version of it, and just share the link in in Workday.
I'm checking to see if we have that 4,000 character thing. I'm pretty sure like your self review has to be read by your manager, and they have to be able to like spit back all these things you did. So, I mean, I'm guilty of building really big reviews in the past, but actually making it like more clear and concise, like bullets, is probably more ideal for someone who needs to know about like 10 engineers and what they did, you know? So the way you can like have concepts of like what you did is like short um understandings, like did X migration, built this feature and collaborated, blah. All that's like way more beneficial at the end of the day than a 4,000 worded paragraph that they're not going to retain anything.
Yeah, to me that almost feels like it's like kind of the rule of like a resume. You don't usually you don't give somebody a 2-page resume. So like it's the same thing with your review. It should be short enough that it can be like easily like read, and I don't know. They can move on to their other 14 engineers, like Scott was saying.
Yeah, just like at least like ways to summarize it, whether it's like titles of the things you did, so it's easy to go back. I remember like there were some years where I wrote bullets for this, and then there were some years where I wrote really long paragraphs of things I did. And I remember towards the end we had the competencies at Wayfair, and that kind of made it easier to bullet. We do something similar here, but I we break down the review a little differently. Like maybe this is just Workday, but we have like different buckets that we need to explain. Like what are 3 or 4 things you did that are correct, or like really your best accomplishments. So you're able to like bucket it a little bit easier. And then I wrote up like all the things I did to meet like the expectations at levels and then the next level.
Do we want to talk about a little bit about like how we structure reviews? I can like talk to it just because I think it's, and when Scott was mentioning it, it's interesting. Like through my career, I've shifted the way I structure them. I started very just like bullet points, not a lot of context, just trying to like get as many wins into my review as possible. And then in the last, I would say 5 years, it's gone into like, here's the 3 most impactful things I've done, and let me like tell you a story about why they're impactful. And that's kind of where I've like moved. And then I'll sometimes have like a miscellaneous bucket of like also did some other things, but um, less important, or like not so much less important, but just don't show the same amount of value as those other things did.
I definitely think that's like a really great way to frame writing your reviews, is like write a story about your wins that leans into or like answers the question for the expectations that you're looking at, whether it's expectations for your current role or for your next role, or like if you're looking for a promotion. Yeah, because that's exactly what I assume someone is looking for and when they read your review.
Yeah. I've also tried to like take the principles of the role, the current and the like upcoming, and then just like feed that to AI and be like, can you try to like build my story around hitting these different like threshold, like things that are they're meant to be hit for that role or that like level. So yeah, and then I have to proofread and clean it up. But yeah.
The other thing that they've really been accentuating over the past couple weeks, months is like
AI. It's
for
AI. You're gonna
reviews.
say AI. Oh, okay.
No,
Sorry.
no, no. For for reviews, it's like more useful to collect the links to the things that you did than it is to write a ton of words. So it's like if you can share a link to a Slack post or like a Loom or something that like some artifact that you produced that helps like provide data or provide backing for that story that you're basically framing for your review. That's like 10 times more valuable than just writing a paragraph about it. Um, because it's like more I don't know, maybe tangible or easy for them to like understand and see. Not necessarily like I don't necessarily think they like look at a review and say, okay, there's no links here, like that's no value, but it's like adding links immediately provides more credibility to the story you're framing.
Clarity, maybe. Like, can you give some examples? Do they want to see literal like the code that you wrote, or do they want to see like blog post documentation?
All of the above. Like it could be, yeah, it could be like, oh, I did this gnarly refactor of this service and like link to the PR, or like I ran this mission, this like company wide migration, and like you link off to the migration that was run and like all the PRs that opened. I mean, not all the PRs, but like a way to see all the PRs that were open for it or whatnot, or like I opened these 10 issues that we used for tracking this work over the past year, and like they're all finished or whatever. So like linking off to all those artifacts, I think is what they're looking for. It could be anything. At least that's the framing I've heard.
That's an option for us, and I mean, I'm have a lot of my self review done, but I was considering because I've been writing a lot of docs. I have to call out like I was able to go to like my customers and be like, here's a bunch of prototypes. Which one do you want us to build and why? Here's the effort each will take. So I have all these docs. I know I'm not getting promoted. So I just don't know how much I want to be like linking to all these things. But I mean, if it helps, it helps.
To me, it sounds like I'm back in college or high school, and I'm like using MLA format and citing my sources, and that's kind of what
It's what it feels
that's
like.
like. Yeah, good thing we learned that in school. Now we can use it at work. Yay!
Yeah, it's like I went to school for art, so I didn't have to do this kind of thing anymore, and here I am doing all the things I didn't want to do. Except for
Oh
coding.
yeah,
Coding's fantastic. I was speaking to one of my teammates, and I was talking about how like the last couple days I was like, it's not really due for like another week or so, but my manager wants to get ahead and write his. So I want to have mine done today. Um, but we were kind of just talking to each other about I can't allow myself to code until I'm done because I could just stop and write code all day. I get so excited about doing the actual work that our job has, but like I do not want to write like an essay, and it takes like a lot longer because I don't do it all the time. Um, so I mean, if I was writing about code, it might be a little bit more exciting. I guess technically I am, but when you're writing about what you did in the past 12 months, I guess in my case, 10 months or whatever, it's like it's a lot. I still think it's great to should have been better this year about keeping notes. I have been in the recent past. I still had some, but it was really great that Claude could kind of spin up all the PR related stuff, and I did take notes about non-code related things. So
part of me feels like your manager, and your skip, maybe not your skip, but like other managers kind of already have an idea for like where they would put you without your review completely, like based on what they've seen you do. And maybe that's just how I feel.
I remember when we were all working together, when I started like hearing that, I thought that was like really screwed up and a symptom of where we worked. And then I'm realizing that's like everywhere or at a lot of places at least. And that's like pretty terrible.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like it's kind of terrible. Like, but I will say we're given a lot longer of time to write ours, a longer window. I remember that the windows used to get smaller when we worked together, and that was not what people were asking for. So at least feels like the reflections matter at some level based on the time we're given to write them.
Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all. I think there's a point in time when it does matter more, and it's probably when you're like
Sure.
you're sort of up for promotion, and then they start to compare you to someone else who maybe is also up for promotion, and they're like, then they pull up the reviews. I almost said resumes. That's basically your work resume, and they like sort of compare and see who provided more value at that point in time. I've never been in a calibration, so I don't know if it actually works that way, but I would assume it's something like that. Anyone here done calibrations before?
I've like strayed away from management as much as I can my whole career.
Then you'll be doing AI like agent calibration. It's like, oh, agent Z over there just didn't churn out enough work. We got to cut him.
Claude and I have like a nepotism like relationship, so I think Claude's always going to be getting promoted.
I feel like this past year plus has been a little bit funky for me. It's just like I joined last year, well 2024 in December. I didn't do a regular performance review at all last year. So I've been at the company like over a year and haven't really done a performance review or like an official one. But then also like my manager left right before performance reviews. So it's like the new person that manages performance reviews for me is like, was a teammate. So knows a little bit of the work that I was doing, but was only a teammate for half the year or so. So I don't know. I'm in just this kind of weird state where it's like my skip is new also. So like basically no one knows what work I did over the last year. Not great. In terms of like, I hope that they understand that I was doing good work. I'm not necessarily ecstatic about trying to sell myself a lot in the review as well, just in the sense of like mainly thinking through the lens of like looking at promotion. Like I'm not too like from what I've heard and seen, it's like that's a multi-year process from where I am now, basically, which is a little demotivating.
I learned something recently when I was curious about getting promoted, and it was something like I started working at my company a year and a half ago, and I was like, oh yeah, I think I'm ready to be promoted. And then I looked at their docs, and it was like, you got to be at the company for 2 years before you can get promoted. I was like, what? It's a thing? That's crazy to me.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Feel like that's a like easy way out of saying like, okay, there's like less people we have to worry about trying to get promoted. Like it's a real, I guess, interesting problem. I don't know. I don't want to say like I soured on getting promoted, but like I'm happy with like the responsibility I have. Like it's funny, like so I probably have mentioned this. I'm technically like a lower position here, but I do all the same things, if not just as much or more than any job I've had. So like I've probably said this before, but like titles are different at different places and they mean different things. Definitely. Like I've noticed like a senior where we worked together, I felt like was a much lower expectation than it is here. And what I've heard about staff here is you start to just like take projects from higher ups. You're like, hey, I want you to build this thing. How would you build it? Whereas as a senior here, I have the autonomy to just build what I think the problem is, which feels a little backwards to me. But like, I don't know, I'm happy. I mean, I've always in my career was like, wanted to grow to the top, I think, or I don't know, grow to like being what might be considered a principal or an architect. And maybe I still do, but like I also have the best work-life balance now. So like maybe I'm getting older and my priorities are shifting is where I'm getting at. But I really enjoy being in the thick of owning a lot of the architectural work. I feel like I'm an architect. Like I do own architectural level decisions. The titles to me don't really make the most sense. And honestly, if you work with me, I'm super happy with not always having the last say about what we build, but rather I'd rather everyone who's a front end or doing the same job as me, we all agree on how we're going to tackle a problem. Like that to me is fun. So it's like I'll put out opinions and ideas, but if someone has a real strong opinion on the way we do something, I mean, maybe now I'm just talking a little bit about my experience here, where it's just like there isn't any really strong opinions in the room, so it's very collaborative. It's been a good change of pace for me.
I feel like we could have a whole episode about that.
We could.
Like having people on a team that are like super opinionated and driving, always like trying to drive the technical direction versus having a team of people that are all kind of on the sidelines. And then it feels like there's not a lot of like work being done to the platform or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I think, like, to your point, like, I think there's less here. I think there's just everyone might have an opinion, but there's like less disagreement on the like we all agree. Like basically what we're working on a project right now where there's like a lot of different third party packages that don't need to be there, like Redux. I may have brought this up. And I just kind of put out there like, hey, why don't we just like remove all the things we don't think we need here and see how big this app really is? And everyone's just like, yeah, that makes the most sense. Like we're all just like in agreement. And the one big thing we have to do is like, do we decide like, do we build this app from scratch again, the front end app? And I guess like my argument was just let's just like deduce and remove all the things we think don't need to be here and then see how big this app really is and if we need to rebuild it and then like write a running list. Because one person feels strongly about rebuilding it. And to be honest, I don't really care. I'm super happy to rebuild it. Like, so both of these approaches, I guess like we all agree that we may not yet agree on like what is the approach when we go to rebuild it or if we do rebuild it, but like we're all like in the same camp is my point. So we for the most part align. There isn't just like one strong opinion that it has to be done in X or Y way, but there's also like not people on the team who don't have an opinion. Like I think it's been very good where everyone feels comfortable speaking up and it's not just like two people solve the problem.
Sometimes people have like an opinion about something and they'll share it with the team and then they're left with crickets. And it's not because, well, it kind of is because people don't care, but it's also because everyone else is so busy worrying about their own shit that when you ask them for an opinion on something, they're like, I don't have time to think about this like critically enough to give you like a good, like you've thought so critically about it and you spent the time. So I can like quickly glance at this and try to look for some opinions I can give, but like I feel like a lot of times they just don't give it enough time to give you a good some good feedback. And maybe that's a culture problem within an org. I'm not saying your company has culture problems,
We definitely got a little bit of that as well.
probably does. But yeah, it's very much like a guys look at this and everyone's like, looks good. They give the like the computer kid thumbs up emoji, and they just move on with their lives, which is kind of sad because you like put that work in, and you want your peers to like take some time and like look at what you did and like poke holes in it. It actually helps you learn, and when people don't do that, you don't get that like learning moment. You just you just move forward with your mistakes, and you don't know what they are, and then they come back to bite you in the future, and you have tech debt.
Having a really solid team in terms of like people that will provide good critical feedback, but then also not necessarily squash ideas that are too early, is incredibly lucky to find and stumble upon, I think. And like I think it is like it's a blend of culture and of like the teammates that are making up the team. I don't know, I'm getting super meta, but it's like that as we're talking about this, it's like, oh, I mean, I feel like my current team is not in that state because it's very difficult for us to
Yeah.
talk about ideas and get alignment and ship it. And it's also, I don't know. It's just like, I feel like we're not in a healthy state or as a team. And so it's, yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what you're both saying just a little bit. So I do agree there's a little bit of like some people don't speak up during things, but we have a concept of DRIs, directly responsible individuals, basically. And like our manager would be like, who wants to be the DRI for this thing? And basically it's like this like kind of informal or semi-formal form of trust where like if you're starting to write solutions for it for the most part, everyone on my team is like the same level. So, and everyone's like really good. So we just kind of like trust that the person can own it. And after like they present something, unless there's like any glaring, like people usually call out good points. But there is that problem that's like everyone has their own stuff to own, and it's like kind of hard to like, I don't want to babysit is like strong, but like babysit somebody else's like solution. But more so, there's like I just want to emphasize the trust part. There's like a lot of trust that it's like you thought through this problem, you thought through that problem. Let me just bring up some things that could be potential problems, contextual problems you might not know about, and then we just like feel good and we let that person run with it, and it's there's that trust. Um, I think we're really good about that, but at the same time, there is sometimes where like some of us are just kind of quiet. Um, and I think it's just because we're in our own world. We haven't thought about the problem as thoroughly as the other person. But like, I don't want to bash like some other situations. There's definitely been situations where that is good, but I also feel like in the past when we've worked on some things, it's just been like there's no leeway to make suggestions. But here, I feel like if you did have a strong opinion, and I was like, oh, XYZ, like people would listen to it or hear it out. Like I've been in some difficult arguments with some principal engineers here who have been like really challenging, um, to a point where I wouldn't probably push that hard personally, but um, yeah, I haven't also seen any glaring like reports on how we solve a problem. So it's a little bit different for me, but basically, I just feel like there's a overall large sense of trust in that someone can solve a problem. I brought up an example of where I was able to like bring to my customer a few solutions, and I was trying not to push them towards the really hard solution that took 6 months, but they picked it because obviously it was what the answer needed. But they trusted that like it would take like 5 or 6 months to build, and they were fine with it. So there is just like a lot of cross team collaboration and trust.
One thing I was thinking about yesterday, actually, and that I was hoping we would end up talking about eventually, is like, how do you guys handle sort of fighting to take on initiatives in your team? Like, if you have a team, like, you know, let's say you think of a good project that your team or that you think your team should tackle. Like, how do you guys handle arguing that either like that yourself should tackle it, or like that the team should tackle it as a whole, and you want to help like define it? I don't know, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm struggling with that at the moment on our team, and so I'm curious to hear from you guys, like, of how you guys approach it. And maybe it's not necessarily a struggle for you guys. Maybe like it might be easier for you to say, "I have this idea," and then the team just says, "Yeah, go for it." But yeah, curious to hear your guys' take.
I have thoughts. Um, I think this is like a org size problem, potentially. At least comparing my last job to my current job. And I think it's where I currently work, there's so few senior engineers with strong opinions, like we were just talking about, that if I have an initiative I want to do, no one's in my way, which is kind of like a bad thing at some point, right?
In what way?
It's kind of like you have a tech plan, you give it to people, and they just like
Mm.
they give you a thumbs up because they don't fully understand it.
Gotcha.
Um, so you're not getting the proper like checks on your work before it gets like implemented. I think as the company's growing, I'm seeing more standardization around like, okay, now you need like an approval from the product security team and then the GDPR team or whatever. Um, but still, we haven't gotten to that point where like that actually always happens. Um, so yeah, I've seen where I currently work. If I have an idea, I just fucking do it. At Wayfair, it was like I have an idea, nobody gives a shit, and then it like fizzles out unless I bring it up every week with my manager for like months. It feels like, and then like maybe it happens.
In terms of like your Wayfair example, like I feel like HubSpot at the moment, on the, or at least on my team, is like the opposite, where it's like you bring up an idea and like everyone says, like, shoots it down, or yeah, like says, well, wait, like we need to do this way, or let's tackle this thing or whatever. And it's like, so it's just like so much friction along the way, where and then like, you know, I don't know, I feel like, without getting too into the weeds or into too many details about the team, it's like there's also like some dynamics where it's like, okay, you bring up an idea, but then someone else actually does the work on it, and which is like a little bit kind of unsatisfying for me. Like, obviously, like, it makes sense. Like, I'm not going to be able to do all the work that I want to do, but kind of, it's like, it kind of sucks to see like, oh, I've been talking about this thing for months, and then this person just went ahead and did it, and it's like, oh.
Dude, I've gotten to this point where when that happens, I'm like, thank God. I don't know why. Maybe I've like gotten to a point in my career where I'm just like, when I come up with an idea and somebody else does it, I'm like, great, I didn't have to do that. Um, I don't know if I can still like take credit for the idea in some sense. Maybe I can. But yeah, it's a weird place to be now.
Two things about that, Matt. Like, first off, if you're coming up with ideas and other people are doing them, you better write that in your performance review. Like, that's like actually really big, in my opinion. Like, you actually created the inception of the concept and someone else ran with it. That's showing your influence, in my opinion. But the other thing is, like, I feel like you should just do it then. like it sounds like you're coming up with ideas and people are hand wavy a little bit about it, and you should just be like, oh, I came up with this idea and I already like did it. I just, not to get too into your situation, but I feel like no one's telling you any direction. Like, it's not cool. But I had a couple of, I guess, thoughts. Otherwise, I too, like Dillon, kind of felt like at W, influencing folks to make like large structural changes was just really difficult in comparison. Like, you could, I mean, maybe admittedly I probably could be better of a, not of a complainer, but more of like a solutions person. And maybe I should have just did it, take my own advice that I just gave to Matt here. But um, it was a little harder to get buy-in for things because we were told to do X thing, and if anything didn't do what that was, like replatforming, and you couldn't argue it up, like it was not what we were doing. Um, but I don't know. I just think our ownership area, maybe it's a little bit smaller. But I can pick like whatever I want and basically speak my mind and just tell my team like I think we should do this. And my manager is very like trusting. He's like, he wants to know what it is and how it affects impact and value. And as long as you explain it to him, he's almost always on board unless he like counters with something better. But like I don't know. It just feels very collaborative and like there's a lot of trust.
I'm jealous.
You made me think of like based on maybe this is kind of how Matt's thinking, and maybe he can't say this out loud, but like the more friction there is around your ideas, the more likely you're gonna like do one of two things potentially, maybe more. But one is you're just gonna do your own thing and not tell anyone, like within the company, and then just like try to make it work. Which we saw that at Wayfair with some tools and some certain people. And then the other thing is very vague. The other thing is you're probably just going to leave and try to find some place where you can have more control over the technical direction of things.
I remember like bringing up to someone we used to work with that I was like super frustrated doing a project when like I wanted to work on basically Matt's heard me talk about this. The way I've said it was like, why am I the sucker who's doing the tickets on the board in the way we agreed to them when a really interesting problem just came up and other engineers are just like solving that problem that would be good for me to solve for my career, and then being told like like basically advocating there's got to be a better way to do this or make sure that like if I have interest I'm involved. um and the answer was just like, well, sometimes things come up that are pressing and we have to be good engineers and know when to like do those things. And I was like, this is just like not acceptable because I'm telling you that I would have done that. And also like we were like also saying pretty strongly that we need to stick to what's on the board to deliver on this thing. So it was like very like out of both ends. And I like agree that with the premise, like sometimes we need to shift, but like if someone's working on like non-career growth, non-interesting problems, and like we should be like communicating ways to like share that work better, right? That's a problem.
I've been in the sort of like a tech lead role in the past. And I'm not currently, but I feel like it's difficult to balance all of the like It's like if you're on a team of, I don't know, 5 or something, each of those 5 individuals has some work that they should tackle that stretches them a little bit, like pushes them towards like further growth. But it's probably pretty likely that there's going to be some overlap there. I think this is like maybe what the intent of like some of the more recent Wayfair layoffs was like trying to get to a state where teams aren't like that, where the teams are a little bit more stretched out in terms of experience and level, and so that the things that they're trying to go for in terms of growth and things like that aren't overlapping as much. I don't think that necessarily was like a reasonable, like, I mean, it's like, I don't think that's a something that's easy to accomplish, or like that doing a layoff is the right way to do it. But I think eventually you end up in a state where like people need to compete for some of those opportunities, because the team, like, everything that you do is not going to be exciting, fun work, right? There's going to be some unfun work, and sometimes that's still valuable, but in terms of like career growth, but other times it's like there's just going to be stuff that you forget about 3 weeks later because it's not important or whatever. I don't know. So it's very hard, I think, very hard to like try to balance making sure everyone on the team can reach those goals. But I think it's like it is a little bit of a balancing act of like, okay, yes, the past 3 months so and so has been doing all this like sort of dreary drudge work, but there's this opportunity coming up that maybe someone else is trying to gear for, but actually it's so and so's opportunity, like time to seize the moment.
I think this is where I differ from people. I feel like I've been doing this shit long enough where every time my manager asks me like, "What are you interested in?" and I'm like, "Just do what we need to do for the customer and the product." Like, and that's enough. Like, I'll just do that. And if it's dredge work or whatever I don't even know what that word is, but um or like if it's fun work to someone else, it's like, "Oh, great." Either way, a lot of times I'll just take on the work no one wants to do for that reason too. Um, it's dredge work, not drudge work.
I kind of wish we got back to like doing the right thing for the customer more, but I guess like my take on a tech lead, like my opinion has evolved a lot. That I feel like all they should have to do is like they don't need to dictate the technical solutions. I mean, they should have an understanding of direction, but they should be able to delegate to like a high level team and let them try to solve the problem. Be there to help them if they get stuck, or have an opinion on like how you might solve it ahead of time, just in case they are stuck. So basically, show the trust in the engineering folks on the team, let them be the light, and just help come up to bat for the solutions when they come up with them. So I feel like that happens a lot here. We had one like full stack tech lead, and on the front end we like don't really have one. And even if we did, like, I think we're all like capable of being it. I just like this by committee where everyone's kind of trusting each other just feels more correct. And I don't want to like push this. I feel like there's like a bunch of tech leads on Matt's team. I don't know who they are. I haven't worked with them, but I feel like there's all these tech leads on the team, and they're all vying for like tech lead ability, and it's like leading to these outcomes where everyone's fighting for work, when in reality they should just be like owning a subset and working towards the same common goal.
Yeah, our team is all SWE 2, so senior software engineer 2, which is like the level right below staff, but then there's senior software engineer 1. So like we're you know again, like it's sort of, we're all in the same area in terms of trying to accomplish the same expectations of our level, and so it's like we're at some point we're just going to end up like competing a little bit with each other.
Haven't they ever heard of atomic teams, Matt?
Maybe not. I'll need
I
to.
think there is some value in having like a team structured around levels in some capacity, so you're not like overloaded with too many seniors and too many juniors, and like and there's like a good size where there's not too many people, and like, yeah, and that like definitely shapes your how like productive your team can be also, because the more seniors you have, the more potential you're going to like slow down development, I think.
So it's interesting. My team is just like Matt's. We don't have senior twos. We just have seniors and staffs. We're all like very top heavy. But I don't know. Maybe we just like break down the work in such a way that like everyone feels like they own something and everyone's like an integral part of the team. I don't know. It's interesting to me though. There's like two radical different dichotomies here. I like Matt's team. It's like everyone has a strong opinion. My team is like, oh, everyone can like do the work, but the opinions aren't like overwhelmingly strong. And if someone has a strong opinion, like there's just like a lot of trust on it. We're not doing groundbreaking work, I guess. We're not building the framework for like 500 other engineers, so maybe that has something to do with it, whereas we're building it for like maybe a couple hundred.
This is just an aside thought, but like most of the like lower level engineers I work with, I think they're like better engineers than some of like the seniors that I know at my company. Hopefully they don't listen to this episode for another
Oh
year
my
or so.
God, dude, that's such a spicy take. The intro is now validated.
Yeah, it's crazy to say that,
You
but
just insulted half
we
your
just
company.
hired some people that are we've hired like one person from just like a really good school, and yeah, I think he went through like a really good CS program, and he's just really good. Um, and I feel like he's much smarter than me in a lot of ways, which is like like, and he's only SE1, and so like I defer to him on a lot of things. It's kind of crazy, but there are things that like with experience I can give a lot of guidance, but it's interesting.
I feel like seniors fall into this pit of like they think what senior engineering is like stepping away from the code and like whiteboarding, heavy architect, like over discussing things, writing RFCs, ADRs, or whatever, instead of like just solving problems. And so I feel like a lot of seniors fall into that trap a little bit, and then the good seniors or whatever are like make their way out of that trap and like see that okay, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like you need to ship something. You can't just theory on whiteboards all day every day. Um, I say this as like a recovering senior from being in that gap. I had definitely had a long period of time where it was like, oh, I shouldn't be writing code. I should be like telling others how to write code or like, I don't know, doing all this other stuff where it's just like that's not valuable.
Is that a a problem of like working somewhere that doesn't have like strict deadlines on things? Sort of.
I uh, I don't think so, but could be. I mean, I think that was like very. It became a thing at Wayfair. I think. It's. I think it's. I think it could be seen probably at most places. Is my guess. But I think for sure at a smaller company, it's less likely to happen for sure because there's like a lot more pressure to like just get shit done. But
I felt like that was like a like basically like I don't want to say victim, not victim of circumstance. Basically, the circumstances you were in to get to the next level. I feel like that's what the company was pushing you to do.
Mm,
yeah, like the competencies are framed in such a way that it's like, oh, this person needs to prove, sort of prove that they're driving architecture. And so like the way that that's interpreted or trickled down to the individual is that like you shouldn't be writing as much code anymore because you're doing this other stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
it's sort of like a negative feedback cycle of sorts of like, or like the telephone game of like, someone in leadership wrote the competencies with some better idea of what it means and not necessarily, and then like people interpret it in different ways as it reaches the individual contributor, and then they end up like sort of changing how they approach their day to day or whatever.
Yeah, this is the problem of like, are you working to like do things for the company, or are you working to just like tick off the boxes so you can get promoted? And I've seen both sides of that. I've like done like tried to hit the boxes before. But I've also seen people like go extreme into like hitting those boxes and step on other people. There's a specific person, I won't name him or her. But yeah, yeah, it's just like it's something you can fall into where you start to play the game. It's like a game now, right? And less about like just trying to do the right thing.
Kind of related to that, I feel like a very common recommendation from a lot of people has been to like maintain something like a career doc or like a wins doc in a sense, and I kind of think that is actually a useful abstraction. It's something I haven't really done in the past, but I think it's useful abstraction in the sense of like framing it from your own lens instead of from what your current company expects of you. Like, yes, that should tie in. So like the way I'm approaching writing one now is like, what goals do I want to set for myself? It's like, okay, start with those and then also look at expectations from my level, expectations from the next level at the current company. See where like there's going to be some overlap, hopefully, and then try to like layer that in, but frame it originally just like starting from my own perspective rather than what the company expects. And that way, it's like, yes, it's a little bit like checkboxes in a sense, but it's like self-defined checkboxes, right? It's like, what are the things I'm setting for myself versus what the company is setting for me, and that way, hopefully, it like keeps me maybe more, I don't know, balanced.
One of the things I've tried to do, but I haven't really thought about it recently, but I used to think about it more in the past, is in this current moment, how hireable am I based on what I've been doing in the last like 6 months? Um, yeah. And now I'm like saying it out loud now, and I'm like, man, I need to like really consider that again. But that's like how I've always tried to, I don't know, steer my goals based on that. Like, am I going to be working on things that I think is going to give me a good chance if I have to go into an interview tomorrow? That's just my way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like aside from like lately I've been using like a lot of AI, I feel like everyone has. I actually still feel like really strongly about my skill set. And I don't really know what changed. I would always kind of be down on myself, but I feel way more strong about my ability to just get in and solve a problem than ever. I don't know, maybe it's how I'm seen here. Um, and I wrote this note here, but like based on kind of what you're saying, like yeah, I want to be like a better communicator. There are like side things like that, and I want to be like a good team player, but I just always want to be somebody other people want to work with. I mean, I'll admittedly here, I don't feel like I've built my network as strongly as maybe I had it at Wayfair. Maybe I was even more friendly there, and um, maybe that's always going to be where some of my best connections came from. But like to me, it's just like being in the code is so important that you just want to keep doing things that you haven't done before. You can't remember everything you've even done. It's like you constant struggle to like remember what I did last week. But the best thing you can literally do is just continue to get the skills and feel confident doing and solving problems. And I guess like a silver lining of AI is sometimes like I just want to go and start, but AI could like get me started a little quicker. Like it knows where that starting point is. Sometimes we don't always build brand new applications from the ground up, right? Maybe if you're a startup, you might. So you might not remember how to do that, and AI can like give you that boilerplate, and then you can just go. So it's you have more confidence, I guess. Sometimes just having the ability to know what you more about doing more little things like that. And also I use the AI to like prompt it and try to learn in that moment when I don't know something. So maybe that's why I feel a little bit more strong about my skills. But I just think no matter what you can do, it's continuing to own your skill set and growing the set.
I want to transition a little bit into stand-up update, but I'm also like, I want to take a little spin because it is our New Year's episode. So as we go through a stand-up update, does anyone have any like sort of goals or resolutions for the year coming that they think are interesting? If you don't, that's fine. I usually don't do New Year's resolutions. I usually do like ones that start on my birthday and like go for the next year. But anyway, Scott, what's up with you? What's your stand-up update?
I guess I've been looking a little bit into resolutions. I don't necessarily do that. I just try to look at it as like, are there some new habits I could build? And one of the habits like I was going to try to build is be a little bit more of a minimalist. I actually have been like watching things and being a minimalist. I'm not a minimalist, or I have like a lot of too many things. But I want to just have healthier habits. Like I have a good habit of just like cleaning things up at night, so in the morning things aren't a mess. And I've been looking to like expand those kinds of habits and like be better about just like not having stuff in the house. One of the things I want to do is like just have a box, and I've actually been pretty good about this lately with like getting rid of old clothes that I don't wear, but just like always having like a box of things that go out of the house if it's like not being used because the house fills up fast. So minimalism in life in the sense. I don't want to just I try not to consume a bunch of crap all the time, but also just building healthier habits. So that's one thing. I did use Claude Max subscription a bit over break. Sad note is we're not continuing this into the new year, so I have to determine by January 19th if I'm going to pay $100 a month or I'm going to downgrade to math subscription since I hardly used like 8% or something. And I was cooking with it. I did a lot of projects that I haven't like launched all the things formally. Basically on my break, I started like doing a ton of work and then I started playing video games and it was over and I just like really needed the break, I realized. So I'm gonna try to continue to write some of this stuff and get some stuff out, but I don't know TLDR if I'm gonna continue paying for Claude Max. I don't think I use it enough to justify it yet, so I might downgrade, see how much I use there, and then make the justification then. But the big thing is doing performance reviews. I had realized like what I needed to be at staff level, and like one of the big things I said was missing was like writing blog posts. And I remember we used to have this at Wayfair, or it maybe wasn't a must have, but I did write that giant visual diff project that I talked about forever. And it's like a really great opportunity to write a blog post outside of work. And I haven't written a blog post this year. So I'd actually like to try to write more. And I had been looking at some other, I don't want to call myself a design engineer. I definitely find design engineering really fun, but I had been looking at others who kind of like write little blog posts about like cool little things that they built. I want to try to get back in the habit of, even if it doesn't take me as long, if I build something, just getting it in a blog format as fast as possible. How can I be better at that? So I guess those are my resolutions. That's what I've been doing. Someone chimed in, and I want that person to go next. I'm not sure if it was Dillon or it was Matt.
I think it was me. I was going to ask you what Claude Max is because I just use like some models on the API through an API token at work.
Yeah, Claude
And
Max
that's all I
is
have.
the subscription service. You can use Opus 4.5 and Sonnet. But basically, Max is just like the amount of tokens you get, and it's a lot.
Oh,
Versus like their other plans. So they're just subscription plans. That's all it is. I might downgrade to the lower tier. It's the one Matt maxes out all the time. And it sounds like you like for you'll max out. I'm gonna probably max out the 4 hours like Matt, but I mean, I don't like, I'm literally not even coming close. And, like I'm using Claude, I'm asking Claude questions all day just to try to use it. I'm sending it photos and stuff, like things that are just like I would never have done, but I'm trying to max out my usage because I have it. So, like, I actually think there needs to be a tier in between the one Matt has, which I think is pro, and max that like is half the usage because that's probably the sweet spot. And they probably know that, but they want to maximize value. So
okay. Yeah, I don't think I have Max because mine is always like it's like compiling your conversation into a smaller conversation or like smaller context, and I'm just like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm gonna use cursor. I'm not waiting on this. And then I try to give it images, and it's like those are too big. And I'm like, God.
We might not be renewing our cursor subscription, and so we're pushing everyone to move to Claude Code plus VS Code if they want VS Code, or just Claude Code straight up. And so a lot of front end engineers heavily adopted cursor. That was originally like the paved path for front end engineering, was to use cursor instead of Claude Code. And so there's been I'd say a decent amount of pushback, verbal pushback about like cursor's great, like we don't want to lose it, but I can understand it, like little cost cutting measures to save some money on our AI spend.
I think Claude is generally like superior. I don't
I
I don't
agree.
want to talk about it for too long. It's better, but it also like you can use it in all the same ways. Like you don't need a clone of VS Code to be that. It's just better in all ways,
Mm-hmm.
and their models are better.
Dylan's the one with the opposite take of us here, I think,
On what?
on like cursor being better than VS Code, or
No,
cursor being better than Claude Code.
I don't think I can't really tell the difference, to be honest. I can go into my update really quick. I got a couple things here. I keep referencing these snippets from this blog post. It's probably driving me mad insane. Um, like literally during the episode, Adi Osmani, I think that's how you say his name. He wrote a post, very clickbait title: "21 Lessons I Learned while working 14 years at Google." Um, and it's not really long, but there's like tidbits and like just like things he learned. None of it's like groundbreaking, but I think there's a lot of good hidden gems in there. And I was referencing it for a different points we were making, and it's pretty cool. Recommend checking it out. Maybe we can add it to the show notes. And then I thought of some resolutions because you brought that up. For me, it's like kind of boring. Like one of them is just continued consistency with work, like working hard but not putting in too much effort, and then just fitness, just like staying consistent. Everyone's always like, "What's your goals for fitness?" And I'm like, just to get it done every week. And that like I think that like pisses them off or something. Not actually pisses them off, but they seem disappointed. They're like, "Wait, you're not going to run like an ultra marathon or like something?" But nope, I'm not going to do that. And then my other resolution is just to see more extended family. Like I feel like there's been many years have passed and I haven't seen certain like cousins and aunts and uncles and stuff. So we want to be better about that this year. And then beyond resolutions, this was kind of a joke, but I retired from Arc Raiders. In a previous episode, I was talking about like it's the best game ever, but then I burned myself out. I burned myself out and put too many hours into it, and then I'm just like giving a giving it a break. And now it's like I quit right when Matt and Scott got into it, so they're looking at me like, "Dude, what the hell?"
Arc Raiders, if people haven't played it, I was slow to adopt it. Dillon sold me on it. Of course, he sold me on it right after he stopped playing, but it's a great game, I think. Anyway,
I think it's good. It's a little buggy, but like I'm gonna be honest with you, like I'm kind of over these games that are just like forever you're doing objectives and not really getting anywhere. It's fun.
Are you saying Arc Raiders is that?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Warzone or whatever. Every month is a new season. It's just like these.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like a
yeah.
new like gaming philosophies of these games. They just never end, and they just take your attention. I don't feel accomplished, and I'm only bringing this up because I was playing Cyberpunk, and like there's a lot that can happen, and it's like way more fun. Like it's just there's some story. I don't know. I guess I'm like they try to get you to spend as much money as possible and the dopamine hits. And it's don't get me wrong, Arc Raiders is wicked fun to play if you got people to play it with. It's a great time, but I just don't feel like I make any progress. It's just a game to play.
yeah, yeah, you spend like 45 minutes getting quite a bit of goop out. I think that's the term that all the kids are using. And then and then you go in with a decent kit and then you die within like the first 3 minutes and then you have to reset.
My hot take is that the game's more fun alone, but that's just me. I don't know if you
Maybe it is.
guys have played solo.
I definitely get into the more peaceful lobbies when I'm playing
I
solo.
had the same
But when I
experience.
play with when I play with like one of our other friends, Taylor, like for some reason we're always in lobbies that all the other raiders want to kill
Well,
us.
you're the sweatiest
But
player
like
of all
I
time.
don't
They
know how.
match you up. That's why.
Well, no, because in playing solo, I get into peaceful lobbies. So
I do
Taylor must
too.
be the one that's
It's
killing
Taylor,
every
yeah.
other raiders.
I do too. Like when I play solo, people like they just run right by you. They don't even like
Yeah.
care.
Yep.
But when we're playing trios, there's like three teams just out to get us. We spawn mid match, half dead. It's like unbelievable.
We have to start like a second podcast for video games at this point, I think. All right, and the last thing on my stand-up update, I'm still giving it, by the way, is I got back into watching Welcome to Wrexham, which is a documentary about a English football team that some famous people bought. Um, and I've just been like watching, keeping up with the team, which is super random to just be a big fan of this random team. But documentary is cool, and keeping track of that team's been interesting. They're in like the championship of English football, and they're like kind of close to the top of the table, which is crazy because their first season there at like ever, I think. So yeah, it's been fun. Yeah. And I don't even watch like any American sports anymore. I just like watch highlights on English football and stuff. It's crazy. I don't know what happened to me. That's it for me.
I feel like I covered most of my stand-up update. Yeah, playing a ton of Arc Raiders, really enjoyed it. I was playing a ton of Battlefield before this, Battlefield 6. But I basically completely jumped over to Arc and haven't actually touched Battlefield in a while, so I need to, I don't know, reevaluate if I want to keep playing that or not. The other big stand-up update, people might have noticed, maybe not have noticed. I don't know. I got a new mic, which is pretty exciting. Actually, I got 2 mics, one from Scott and one from my fiance, and apparently this one's better, I guess. So who knows?
Wait, which one's better?
The one from Katie, apparently, or at least Scott said it was better. I don't know. I haven't tested the other one.
They're both.
So maybe I'll return the mic to Scott, maybe, or give it to Dillon.
The good thing about the 2 mics that you currently have matter. Like if we ever do a live podcast, they're very portable and easy to use, and they're good for that. So I don't think that you should keep that Yeti mic portable. You should boom arm it and make it part of your workflow. But yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think the like where it goes from here, yeah, it's like a boom arm from my desk, and then one that like sits on the ground so it's stabilized against the keyboard typing, and then I need studio lighting, and
Yes.
pretty soon it's basically a whole podcast studio. And then let's see. I think that's my stand-up update. I resolutions. I didn't like concretely land on this, but I feel like I'm leaning towards it just after I don't know, a week and a half of the new year. Is like I want to try to connect more with other engineers at HubSpot, but then also like people that I've worked with in the past. I feel like I don't keep that network up, so I want to just put more effort into it. So I might be I don't know, might be trying to connect for more coffee chats and virtual coffee chats and physical coffee chats and whatnot. Speaking of which, Dillon, I feel like we need to get another beer at Trident. Trillium, not Trident. You can. I'm pretty sure. I mean, they have a full restaurant.
You said Trident. I was like, can you even buy beer there?
Maybe we could do that because that's like a little bit more like sort of halfway between your office and
Yeah, I'm guessing,
yeah.
I feel like I went
The
there
other
with
Spencer
someone
G.
once. Yeah, Spencer G.
Well, there's another one that we play Arc with.
Oh no, how many Spencer G's are there? Okay, crap. I was like added the initial because I was like, it's got to be different, but it's not. Spencer GR.
All right, cool. Any last thoughts, you guys?
Can we talk about the Tailwind drama?
I don't know. Maybe we need to do a React and Retro episode on that.
All right, we'll save it for that.
Dylan's over there like, what Tailwind drama? I have no idea. But yeah, maybe we do a React and Retro episode on that. I think that would be good.
I have no idea. We need a whole segment that's just like Matt and Scott tell Dylan the news because he doesn't read it or he doesn't check the news.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Happy New Year. I hope you guys keep listening to us. We were a little bit slow over the holidays. Hopefully we pick back up the pace. I always say that every episode that we pick up back up the pace and get back to our schedule. I think our schedule is just random at this point, so who knows? But if you like this episode, share it with people. Leave a comment. Leave us a review. 6 out of 7 stars. Like and subscribe. Join our Discord. Chime off. There's a pretty active community there. We want to keep it growing. Thanks and peace out.
Later.